Hello, everybody. Hello, and welcome to Side Hustle Ideas. I am Bill, the company's expert. Thank you for joining me today. This is the weekly live stream where we talk all about entrepreneurship and business. And like the name implies, if you have an ambition to start a side hustle, bring in some extra money, or you have grander entrepreneurial dreams, you want to start your own business and have it become the main money-making venture in your life as opposed to working as an employee, you've come to the right place because we're here to talk about all that stuff today. And special thanks to my YouTube channel members. You guys are awesome. Membership has its privileges. And my Patreons and my super thanks donors, and especially to you, to my participants. And this is, after all, basically a Q&A, so I will be taking questions a little bit later. But the topic of today's episode is how to write a business plan, and do you need a business plan? So we're going to be answering those in reverse order. Let's talk about, first, do you need a business plan? Okay, I know a lot of people are struggling with this. Now, just to give you some background here, I used to teach entrepreneurship in university, and I have been an entrepreneur at a couple of times in my life. And so I feel I know a little bit about this, and there are a couple of different worlds, like entrepreneurship and side hustles. There's a couple of different worlds. Some people do the more innovative tech startups, where it's, you're working with new technologies, and it's even higher risk than normal entrepreneurship. And then other people do the sort of traditional entrepreneurship. You can call it SME entrepreneurship or just traditional small business, where you're not doing anything particularly innovative. The only innovative thing is the fact that you're doing it, right? So you're starting up a plumbing company, you're starting up a drywall company, starting up like any traditional type business. And the business itself is not really pushing the barriers of innovation, but it's still a challenge for you because you may have never done this before. So that's the big challenge there. So there's a couple of different worlds, and it's hard to generalize because those two worlds, they're quite a bit different depending on what you're trying to do and also where you're located. So for example, if you're located in Silicon Valley and you're trying to do an innovative type startup, it's going to be quite a bit different if you're located in, say, the American Midwest, or where I am in Canada, and you're trying to do a traditional type business. Maybe you want to start up a construction company or something like that. So this involves quite a bit of different situations and different ideas, but common to both is a business plan, okay? And you will need a business plan if you are wanting to do certain things, okay? Is it the be-all, end-all? No, it isn't actually. It's not the be-all, end-all. And that's what we're going to talk about. So let's get right directly to, do you need a business plan? I see there are 13 people here. Thank you for joining me today. Okay, so do you need a business plan? Now, for certain applications, if you have certain goals, yes, you do. Okay, however, if you don't have those specific goals, no, you don't. Okay, now let me be clear. It's obviously important to know what you're doing, what your plan is, where you're going. But do you need it written down in a structured document that's kept up to date? No, you don't. That's not an absolute requirement. Okay, in fact, I have known many young people who try and do that. They try and maintain a business plan, meaning a document that is updated at every moment to what they're doing and what their goals are, and what they're like. It contains everything they've learned, and it contains their entire plan. I've known a lot of people that have tried to maintain this, and it is nothing but a hindrance to them, because everything you learn, every idea you have, or every way that something you learn changes your plan, has to then be incorporated into your business plan. And that's a real hindrance. Okay, it makes everything very bureaucratic. Okay, but if you are trying to pursue specific goals, like you want to get a grant or you want to get a loan, okay, or you're trying to get an investor on board, then yeah, you kind of need a business plan in the sense that it's a standard document that summarizes who you are, what you're doing, and what your plan is. Okay? The alternative is a pitch deck. A pitch deck is like a type of business plan. It's a very graphical, summarized business plan that you can use to do a quick demonstration or presentation to someone. Okay, now that's mainly used in venture capital. Hopefully everybody understands what venture capital is. Venture capital is when you have essentially a banker, a type of banker, okay, who manages the money pooled together by a group of investors. And their job is to, like a banker, is try to find things to invest that money in. In this case, they're going to be investing it in startup companies. And startup companies, by their nature, are very, very high risk. So what that means is that if you have, say, 20 startup companies, typically 19 of them will fail in their current form, but the 20th one will succeed. And because it's very high risk, high return in venture capital, the types of investments they make, that 20th one that succeeds, that pays for the failure of the other 19, plus it makes additional profit on top of that. That's the kind of returns that we're talking about in venture capital. So innovative startups and that kind of thing. So that's what venture capital is. It's like bankers pooling other people's money to invest in startups. That's different from an angel investor. An angel investor is someone who invests their own money. So someone who's rich, it could be a doctor or a lawyer, or someone who has a lot of disposable income. They may choose to invest in local companies or something, and so they invest their own money, right? So it's a little bit of a different thing with an angel investor. But certainly for venture capital, you are going to need a business plan. So yes, you will need a business plan if that's the world in which you're operating. So hopefully that makes sense. I see those 13 people are still here, so that's good. I haven't completely put you to sleep yet. No, actually, this is quite interesting. There's a lot of possibilities here. If you have grand plans, this is something that, you can get quite exciting. Now, if you don't want to play in the world of investors, okay, maybe you don't live in Silicon Valley or some hub of innovation in the world, okay, you can also get into the world of high net worth individuals. You find them pretty much almost everywhere, but they're in certain circles, okay? It's more of a networking kind of thing. And usually you will need a business plan if you are playing that game too, okay? Not to mention if you are looking for a partner, simply a person that's going to do the business with you. It sometimes helps to have a business plan so you can quickly summarize your position, what you're doing, and what your goals are. Okay, so do you need a business plan for success? No. The only thing you need for success is knowledge. Now, whether you write it down in a coherent plan is up to you, but it's not necessary. And the thing about knowledge is that it's very malleable and changeable over time. Okay, so that's why trying to write everything down in a very rigid kind of thing is it's more of a hindrance than anything else. Okay, and you learn by analyzing others. Okay, so that's going to be going on all the time. So, that plus doing, right? We all know this. You learn by observing what other people are doing, and then you also learn by trying things. You must have both of those if you're going to win. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. Do you need a business plan? The answer is maybe. You need it for certain things, like if you're going after investors or, like venture capital, or if you're going after a traditional bank loan, or if you're trying to apply to government programs where they give you grants. Okay, every year there are different organizations, depending on where you live in the world, that, usually they're government-run programs that are designed to stimulate the economy, and they give out money, they give out cash to people that are going to be doing entrepreneurial ventures. And in some cases, they don't require you to pay it back, in which case it's a real grant. Sometimes they say it's a grant, but it's actually a loan. That means they'll give you money, but then you have to pay it back, just like a bank loan, right? But for both of those, you're going to need some type of business plan. So that would be why you would want to create one of these for yourselves. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. You do need it for certain things, but is an absolute requirement? No. And sometimes it can get in the way because if you're going to be doing a lot of learning, which you should be doing, trying to write it all down and organize it at all times is a hindrance. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. Let's move on to the main topic of this live stream, which is how to write a business plan. Okay, I'm going to see if I can actually pull up a web browser so I can give you some visual examples. It's not just me waffling on the entire time. I'd like to be able to give you some hard examples of things. There we go. Okay. Right. So, let's see if I can share my screen. Yes, I can. Okay, excellent. Right. So, how to write a business plan. First of all, I'd like to mention, if you haven't seen it already, on the screen, okay, check out that course if you're wanting to learn business. The best bang for the buck around. You learn everything you would in a university MBA program, but for a tiny, tiny fraction of the price. And the beauty is you can do it on your schedule. You can go to the depth that you want to go, either just a cursory skimming of the material, or you can go really in depth. Totally flexible. I designed it for people that want to learn entrepreneurship and they want to learn business to either help them in their conventional career or in their world of startups and small business. That's why I created this. So check that out. The link is in the description if you are wanting to do that. Okay, so how to write a business plan. Now, the first thing you need to know is that there's no standard industry format for a business plan. There are many different types of business plan, many examples, and some are industry specific. So in a certain industry, it's a norm to have a business plan in a certain format, but these are far from standard, okay? I'm going to cover here the sort of essentials you need, and then beyond that, you can look at how things are done in your specific industry, in your specific location. There might be other little guidelines there, okay? Let's talk about what's usually in a business plan. Okay, to start off, first of all, there's about 4 or so major sections to a business plan. The first one is sort of like the introduction, the sort of vital statistics. A lot of people call it a company profile, okay? Basically, it describes your business in like maybe a paragraph, what it is you're going to be doing, okay? It will describe your offering. Your offering it's the product or service that you're selling, or it could be a combination of the two, a product and a service kind of combined, right? But any combination of those two things, product or service, is called an offering. So it describes your offering. Okay, here's what I'm going to be selling. This is what it is. This is what it's called. This is how it works. Okay. And then it describes the value proposition of your offering. So why someone would want to buy it? Why is there a need for this thing? Okay, you spell that out. Because as you can appreciate, this is kind of the first thing someone would need to know about what you're doing. Okay? What are you selling? Why would somebody want it? Okay? Then it goes into the more sort of mundane technical details about the ownership of this company, this venture. Like, is it entirely owned by you? Who else is involved? What's the structure? Are there any employees? That kind of thing. The legal structure of your company. Usually that means, is it a proprietorship, which is something that's just you doing on the side? It's an extension of your own financial affairs. It's essentially your project. Or is it a corporation, something that is its own legal entity, and it does its own tax return, and it is not tied to any one individual. So employees and owners can go in and out of that corporation, right? But the corporation always exists on its own, okay? So it talks about the legal structure of the company. So that's basically the company profile, okay? What you're called, who owns it, who the employees are, what your product or service is, why someone would want it, and the legal structure of this entity that you've set up. Or not set up. Is it just an idea at this point, right? You see, the company profile would say all that, okay? And that's the first major section of 4. The second section is sales and marketing, the most important section of your business plan, okay? Because the most obvious question is who's going to buy this thing, right? This thing that you're selling, you've told them that you have a thing for sale and this is what it is and this is why someone would want it. Well, what are the efforts to get the word out and get customers? That's pretty damn important, okay? So this would contain everything you know pretty much about how to sell your product. Who's it going to be sold to? What's its price going to be? You explain who the potential customers are, right? All of that is in the sales and marketing section. Now, if you're an investor and you're looking at a business plan, this is going to be sort of the area where you're going to focus on, okay? And it's here where, in all honesty, you can tell if someone knows what they're doing or not, right? You can tell that kind of insight from looking at what they've written here. Okay, so you would talk about your target market. Okay, your target market are the people that you're going to be selling to. You can't just sell it to everyone. It doesn't work. You have to sell it to a subset of the people out there. Who are these people? How many of them are there? What age are they? Where are they located? What's their psychological profile? Like why would they be into this? What's their needs or their wants? Okay. And this is not just going to be guesswork. This is going to be where you put your evidence in there and you say what you've done. So if you've met these people, if you've been to, I don't know, industry trade shows or anything like that, if you've had interaction with these people, that's where you talk about them. Okay. And you give numbers. Okay. This is also where you can talk about your competitors. Okay, so you talk about your customers or potential customers. You also talk about your competitors. So who else is in this game? What do they offer? How big are they? What's their market? Are they delivering on the needs and wants of their target market, or are they not? Is their target market exactly the same as yours, or does it overlap a bit? Right? This is where you discuss all that stuff. Okay. Also in the section, you may do something called a SWOT analysis. Maybe you've heard of a SWOT analysis, SWOT. Just to mix this up, let's go here, SWOT. Whoops, why is there a 5 in there? There you go, SWOT analysis. Okay, so this is a basic tool. I did a video on this recently. It stands for Strengths, Weaknesses, Opportunities, and Threats. So that's where you look at internally, what are your strengths? What are your weaknesses to getting this off the ground and making it be a success? But you also look externally, okay, outside of what you're doing. Let's look at what's happening in the market. Are there opportunities there? Maybe one of your competitors is dropping the ball, or they're not meeting some needs, or they're not moving with the times. Or what threats are going on? Is there an economic downturn that's about to happen? And so on, right? So you would do a SWOT analysis where it's just the sort of very basic look at this business and what's going on. Okay. That would also be under the sales and marketing component of your business plan. Pricing strategy. You have to talk about how, what your thoughts are for how much you're going to offer for this. Now, depending on what you're trying to do, this could be very important or it could be not that important, but you have to at least have thought about it. Okay, and you put that under pricing strategy. If you're competing on price with a competitor, then it becomes supremely important. If you're offering something completely different that nobody else is offering, your exact pricing may not matter as much, but you still have to talk about it. If you're trying to do a sales forecast, okay, that would be something that you would put in this section. What that is you predict what your sales are going to be in a certain time frame. So in the next year, each quarter, what are your expected sales? This is so that investors and other people who read this can have an idea of when you're expecting to make money and how much. Okay? For example, if it's going to take a year to get your idea off the ground, they want to know this. Maybe you could take pre-orders, right? And get money coming in up front before your product is ready. That would be important, right? So that's also where you would include this kind of thing. Okay? And for all of these, you'd want to include backup. you don't just say, this is what's going to happen. Instead, you say, this is what's going to happen, and this is the evidence that it's going to happen, right? It's not just guesswork. If an investor is reading this, they're going to be reading it in a very critical manner. They're going to say, well, prove to me that that's going to work out the way you say it is, right? So this is where you would have some basic backup and say, I've spoken to 100 potential customers. This is what they've told me. I've done surveys. I've looked at the sales analysis of my competitor, and this is what they're doing. That's the reason I say I can produce these kinds of numbers or something. Okay? Okay, so all of that is the sales and marketing component of your business plan. That's the second big component. We talked about the sort of company profile. Now we talked about the sales and marketing side. The third of 4 sections that you're going to need is the operations side, okay? So that's where you talk about, where you're located, your assets, what do you own, right? Or what do you have access to? So if you're producing a product, you'd have to talk about, this is my capabilities of producing a product. I own a house or a garage or, a facility of some kind, some property, or I'm leasing some property. It's shop space where we can manufacture this product. I have these machines and equipment. Okay. I have assets in terms of this is the amount of cash I have access to, my financial assets. I have relationships with these suppliers or partners that supply. I have a deal in place with these people. They'll give me this material for this price. And you can also do things like risk assessments in this section also, where you say if this whole facility were to burn down in a fire, this is my backup plan or something like that. Okay. So that's your operations. You explain basically your capability of producing your product. And finally, the last section of your business plan is the financial section. This is where you talk about money. Okay. So usually this consists of an ex-ante set of financial statements. What that means is you've got your financial statements. And for those of you who don't know much about finance, there are 4 types of papers, of statements that accountants usually use to summarize the position of a company. So 4 sheets of paper, as in the old days. This is your income statement, your balance sheet, your statement of cash flows, and your statement of owner's equity. Okay, now they're called different names, but those are the same statements. So what this is in this section of your business plan, you're going to be doing a prediction, okay, of what your financial situation is going to look like when you start your operation or 6 months into your operation or whatever your plan is. You're going to be giving financial statements in some way, shape, or form, okay? And this will reveal things like what you have access to, your amount of debt, your amount of cash in the bank, your predictions as to what money is going to be coming in at what time, your expenses and costs, what they're going to be, and the sort of time frame that those are going to occur in. It's going to reveal things like, when you have costs, are they fixed costs? Are they all going to run your facility? Or are they mainly going to be incurred by producing units of your product, right? So it'll tell them all of this. It'll also explain how much profit you're retaining and, how much wealth the owners have acquired and is this going to be profitable and all that kind of stuff. So all of that will be revealed when you give these financial statements in your financial section. Now, if you're not an accountant or you're not a financial manager and you don't really know your way around these too well, don't worry about it, okay? It's not critical at this moment. The only thing that's really critical is that the bottom line makes sense to somebody reading it. So if you say, look, I have this much money now, and I'm going to be putting this much money in, and it's going to produce this result, and I'm expecting to make this much money within this time frame, and therefore break even at this point, that's all you really need. Just the basics, okay? You can always get accountants to draw these things up in a more professional way later on, but your plan just has to make sense financially. For example, you can't have less money coming in than you're putting in, right? You have to make money, and you have to show how you're going to be doing that and you have to be able to answer any questions people might have, okay? So that's basically the financial component of your business plan. So you've got those 4 sections: company profile, sales and marketing, operations, and financial. And that's the core of a business plan. In different industries, they have different conventions. I'm going to see if I can show you some very quick examples. And I highly recommend that you do this on your own. Just do your own research to see examples of these things. Okay, so I'm here at Google. And you could maybe do an image search and do it this way. Okay, so I just said business plan examples. Now, I actually prefer Bing for this, like I've said several times. But you can go through this. In fact, let's do that. Let's go to Bing. Let me just show you. Okay, we got some nice pictures of dogs here. Very inspirational. Business plan examples. Okay. So let's go down here. Here we got a window that sort of pops up. And you can scroll through this stuff. And this will give you a basic idea of what, they look like. Obviously, I can't guarantee that every single thing that's popping up is pinpoint accurate that you would want to emulate, but it gives you some idea of what's possible and the formats that people use. Another thing you could do is you can look at the actual financial, like annual reports of businesses. So companies you've heard of or local companies in your area, if they have a website and if they've published their annual report, like if they're a big company that's got, public shareholders and things, take a look at it, because a lot of the same things in your business plan, the types of things in there, will be in a financial report or an annual report. Okay, so there's a lot of examples online. You can look a lot of this stuff up. So I encourage you to do that. Right. That concludes the topic that I wanted to cover. Let's go to questions. I see there's at least one person that's been asking questions. Seasonal is here. Seasonal says, "Hey man, I am planning to build a career in product management. I'm actually from a coding background, but honestly speaking, I'm not that good at coding, but I can speak with people comfortably. So could you please tell me what I should do? I'm currently in the last year of my undergrad." Well, this is a live stream about starting your own business. So, if that's what you intend to do, here's what I would say. You learn this stuff by doing it, okay? You can have a conventional career working as an employee, and that means you have an intermediary between you and the money, right? So the employer makes money, and then they give a tiny little piece of it to you in exchange for you doing certain things for them, okay? The whole point of entrepreneurship is that you learn to make the money yourself, so you don't need an intermediary to give you a little piece of the money they're making. You generate the money yourself. Okay, that means that you will always be able to have a job, as it were, because you don't need someone's permission to have a job. You just do certain things and the money comes in directly to you, right? Now, if you've got some skills in coding, or you have an ambition, you have a passion for product management, you could certainly do that on your own. Now, if your ambition is to work as an employee doing that stuff, great, that's fine. But if you are interested in the alternative, which is you doing this stuff yourself, okay, you can get started today. You could start developing a product, and you could learn how to sell that product, and then you learn how to collect money for that product. And that way you have money coming directly to you. And how good you are at your job is directly proportional to how much money you make, right? So if you want to make more money, you work harder at your job. You learn to do things better. You learn more about the world, and you develop new capabilities, and you can make more money, right? So if that's the direction you're interested in going, you can get started today. So it starts with you producing something that somebody else wants. Now, with skills in coding, but you admit that they're not amazing skills in coding, but a passion in product management, what do you want to do? Is there something that you would enjoy doing that other people would want to pay for? right? Is there something you've seen out in the world you're thinking, hey, I could do that and I could do it better, right? In some way. On a very small scale, because it's only you don't have a team of 1,000 people working for you, but it's just you. But something that you could do that someone would want. And it would be superior in some way to what's already out there. Okay, so that's the beginnings of sort of getting on this train to take you to that destination, if that's where you're interested in going. Okay, and what I would do is I would do two things. Like I just mentioned, like 5 minutes ago, or 10 minutes ago, you learn by doing two things, by essentially book study, learning the theory, learning how business works. But then you also learn by trying things, doing it. Okay? You have to do both. You can't just do one. You have to do both. Okay? Both are needed. Now, yes, I have talked about this. I offer a course that's my sort of thing that I think a lot of young entrepreneurs would need to know. It's essentially an MBA. It teaches you business. Business is the art and science of how to make money. That's what business is. So if you're trying to make money with something, it's kind of useful to know business. That's what it is. So I would, you don't have to buy my course, but learn business. I mean, I recommend that you do check out my course, but learn that business, and then, very important, start trying things. Okay, take your best guess. Don't be fooled into thinking that you need to spend a lot of money to try things. You don't. You can spend zero. If you already have an internet-connected computer, maybe a smartphone, you can try all kinds of things for no money, just using these assets you already have and your time. You know what I'm saying? You go into a group of people and you say, hey, I'm offering this. Is anyone interested? Right? And if there are crickets and nobody responds, that tells you something. If, on the other hand, 20 people contact you and say, hey, you said it costs this much? Sure, I'll take two. Right? That tells you something else. Right? So there's a lot of things you can try. And as you try things, you will start learning about how to do this. Okay? So hopefully that's enough to go on. Okay? I wish you the best of luck. Chandler, do you think it's a good idea to generate a rough draft on ChatGPT? Yeah, well, ChatGPT is a tool. It's a pretty damn useful tool. Is it the be-all, end-all? No. Is it magic that can take away the thinking out of what you do? No. But if you use it correctly, it can be very useful. It's like a hammer, right? If you use the hammer correctly, it can do a lot of work for you, right? Will it build the entire house without you? No, it won't. But it's a tool. So you can enter in sort of your rough ideas or your rough data and have it format it, have it extrapolate it, have it suggest things, I suppose. But so yes, that has its place. I've never used ChatGPT to write a business plan specifically, but I've used it for other things, so I imagine it would be useful. But nothing will replace the thinking work that you have to do. At the end of the day, you have to come up with an original idea. You have to figure out a way to sell it that's going to work in the real world. And ChatGPT can't solve those problems for you. You're going to have to learn how the world works and learn what your capabilities are. Right? So yes, you could certainly use it as a rough draft, but then you have to add your own knowledge to it, definitely. Shaka says, hi, good day. What ideas for a side business do you have for healthcare workers, especially those in the laboratory science field? I don't have much creativity or talent. Well, if you don't have any talent, I'd say there's no reason for you to exist. I think the reality is that you actually do have talent. It's just that you're either selling yourself short or you're not recognizing it for what it is, right? Now, listen, I'm not in the healthcare field, nor am I in the laboratory science field, okay? So I'm not going to be able to suggest very specific things that you couldn't think of, right? Because you're in those fields. But here's what I would say. If you're a healthcare worker and you work in a lab like pathology or something, whatever healthcare workers work in when they go to a lab, what is it that you have the capability of doing? Right? If you're a healthcare worker, does that mean you're like a nurse? You can take care of people, right? Well, if you look around at the world, I think there's a lot of people out there that could use some help and some care, right? And the existing facilities are not fully satisfying their needs and wants. So I'm sure there's a ton of opportunities out there. I know that there are a lot of people in the healthcare industry that start their own clinics, their own businesses, providing healthcare for very specific groups of people in specific situations, things that are not being done perfectly right now, where people could use a little bit of extra help or a little bit of extra attention or a little bit of extra specialized care for certain things. Okay? So what are those? Think of all the things you could possibly do. Like, think of every type of care, right? Ranging from alternative medicine to traditional medicine, thinking of almost luxury type light end stuff to very, very intense, life-saving, services and facilities that people absolutely need, right? I'm sure you can make a list of 50 things easy in like a couple of minutes. Just write down, you could provide acupuncture, you could provide additional nursing, you could provide care for mentally disadvantaged people, you could provide whatever, you could make a huge list. Now, of all the things, what is on that list where A, you could provide it, you have some talent or interest in that area, and B, is something where there's a need out there for more of that, right? Now, if you can find an item on there that you would like to do and you can do and you would enjoy doing it, and there's a need for it, people would be willing to pay, right, in some way, shape, or form. Maybe the government pays you for providing that service to those people, so they don't even have to directly pay for it. Is there something like that, right? Start thinking like this, and then maybe several ideas will present themselves to you. Right? What about lab work? Can you do like lab work that would supplement the work that established labs do? Is there something that you could do in your own capacity? Maybe using rented equipment, leased equipment. Maybe you come in at night, or you come in when you use somebody else's proper facility in the downtime or something. There's all kinds of possibilities out there. Okay? So it's about thinking like that, and sooner or later you'll come up with stuff. You can also go out and do informational interviews with people in that world. So you could talk to doctors, you could talk to administrators of facilities, and just talk to them about, how that industry works, and are there gaps in, the need for things that are not being met? What's the future of that industry? Are there new things coming in that are replacing and changing things? Okay, you can talk to these people and kick around some of these ideas, pick their brain about it, and you'll get even more ideas, okay? Seasonal says, let's say someone who enters a managing field, could you tell out of your Could you tell out of your expertise what someone should actually know to head start their career in, and some tools they could use as well? Tripping over the grammar a little bit there, Seasonal. Yeah, I mean, that's extremely general. There's no specifics in there, but the answer is yes. Definitely. Now, look, managing is... Here's the deal. Managing is how to sort of take care of something and make it work, right? In theory. But it isn't the specifics. So in order to apply, skills in management, you have to apply it to a specific situation, right? So just having general sort of management skills is really not enough to apply it. You would have to be able to apply it to a specific problem or a specific situation, right? So you get the specific situation by going out and trying things, right? You might have gotten the skills in management from school, like maybe you took an MBA, or you went to business school, or you took one of the subsets business, like accounting or marketing. That's great. But like, for example, marketing is basically how to sell something. At the end of the day, that's really what it is. So in order to apply that, you would have to try and sell something. So that means you have to pick something. You have to apply it to a very specific instance. Okay, so you've got the broad skills. Now you need the depth skills, right? Now there's some areas where you don't have to be a rocket surgeon to understand the industry. The construction industry, residential construction is one of them, where it seems like everybody who doesn't have a college degree, everybody who doesn't complete high school, can like go in and make millions of dollars, potentially. You don't really need that many brains. It's just, it's very easy to get into, right? You want to repaint somebody's house. How much knowledge and training do you really need to paint something? You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of things you can get into that are really not that technically complicated. Anybody could do it, right? But if you have skills in management and you want to set up a painting company, you might have an advantage in that if you can do the painting stuff and you understand the painting side of things, you can run that company more efficiently and more effectively than maybe people who are just painters, right? You can find new ways of marketing it, selling it, financing it. You can make it more efficient in terms of people management, in terms of operational management. So you've got to tie your general management skills down to a specific technical thing, an instance. So you got to pick a business. You're welcome, Shaka. Hopefully that helped. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. So for some people, a business plan can be useful because it's a way for you to structure your thoughts. It forces you to think about certain aspects that you may not have thought about before, like the financial side or the marketing side, right? Maybe, you love painting. You're very, you're artistic, but you also know about paint and you have practical skills. But maybe you've never thought about the financial side of running a painting company. How much would you have to charge? And, for what services in order to make enough money to make a certain amount of profit that you could live on, and maybe have a bit extra so you could hire other people and try and grow. Maybe you haven't thought of that before. So maybe a business plan, the exercise of trying to write a business plan can help you with these aspects also, right? Which is good because you're addressing concerns before they happen and become a problem, right? You're welcome, Seasonal. Someone says, hello from Kazakhstan. A quick question. What do you think about freelance platforms such as Upwork? How is it efficient and different from the usual job? I don't know much about them. I haven't been on there myself. Okay, so I'm not a guru when it comes to things like Upwork. The idea makes sense. There could be a definite upside to doing it. It might be a way to connect with potential customers quickly, right, and efficiently. But I've never used it myself, so I can't say whether, I would recommend it or not. I would recommend maybe checking it out, but I don't know if it's really the way to go or not for different things. The internet tends to be great at connecting people. So I imagine there's a lot of potential there, but whether it delivers on that, I'm not sure. Okay, so there we go. I've basically said my piece about business plans, unless anyone has any specific questions. I'm going to wrap this up in about a minute, unless I get any really compelling questions in the next minute or so. So speak now or forever hold your peace. But yeah, as I say, like do your own research, like what we were doing earlier, looking up samples of business plans and things. That can maybe get you started, so you have an idea of perhaps the approach you want to take. But yeah, it is not the be-all, end-all that some people think it is. When you are starting out and learning, you've got enough of a job just learning things and making a plan and executing on that plan without stopping every 5 minutes to write it down and incorporate it into your master plan in this document. That can be very inefficient. Okay, so It's a tool. The business plan is a tool, but it's not something you absolutely need all the time. And it's not something that should be the entire focus of your efforts when starting a side hustle or a full-blown business. But it can be a learning tool, and it can help you with specific goals like getting loans, getting grants, getting investors, getting partners, that kind of thing. Okay? So there we go. Thank you very much for being here. You guys are awesome. I wish you every bit of luck in your entrepreneurial ventures. And check out this course if you want to learn business properly, quickly, and you want the best bang for the buck. It's $100 to essentially get all the same learning you would get in a university MBA program. The catch is that it's very unstructured. You get a reading list, you get books, the textbooks, the same textbooks they use in places like Harvard Business School in their business program. So you're reading the same source material, and the only question is how deep you go. There are no assignments, no tests. You go as deep as you want, and you do it entirely on your own schedule. You could go really in depth and do like the equivalent of a full MBA, which would take you a while. Or you could just skim the material, or you could learn just a little area, like you just are interested in learning the marketing side of things, or maybe the financial side of things. You can just learn it for that, okay? But check that out if you have any ambitions to do this kind of thing, and it will be a big help to you. Thanks, everyone. I will be back in a week with another episode of Side Hustle Ideas. Until then, take care of yourselves.